Manchester City are not back, clearly. Clearly we're not back, but we will be. We absolutely will be. And I'm convinced that this January transfer market is the stepping stone towards a brighter future for Manchester City. I'm convinced that the likes of Omar Mamouche, Vita Reich and Kushinov coming into the Manchester City squad is only going to enhance Manchester City Football Club and the chances of winning silverware in the future. Not this season, but next season. Almost definitely. We do need that fourth player, though. That's abundantly clear. I mean, that's an obvious statement of the year. That is right there, that Manchester City need another midfielder, a central holding midfielder, primarily for Manchester City. And I think we'll get one. I do believe we're going to do some interesting business. I'm not thinking it's going to be a blockbuster name, because there are no names. That's what's interesting about this. I'm convinced we're going to do it. But the fact that there are no rumours whatsoever at the minute make me think that it's not going to be blockbuster. It's going to be a little bit coy. Might be a little bit underwhelming for some City fans, but I do think it could be one of those under-the-radar type transfers that are a little bit surprising, but then maybe go on in a year's time and go, actually, that wasn't a bad deal. You think of a Kanji sort of deal like that, like a bit of an unknown quantity, like I'm not really sure this is going to work, but 15 million, hardly paid that much for him, but ends up being a genuinely good addition to the Manchester City squad. I think that's the type of transfer Manchester City are going to go for in the midfield department yesterday. But the same frailties showed their ugly head yesterday. The fragility of this Manchester City squad, the 11 that are on the pitch at least, was so obvious. For everyone to see again yesterday in that final moments of the game. We've blown leads against Manchester United in the Manchester Derby. 3-0 up against Feyenoord. 2-0 up against Brentford. It's a mental thing at a certain point. You get to a stage of the game where it's like, it's a mental thing. You've got to be strong, willing, and so mentally strong and just composed in those final moments of the game, and we're just not right now. And I think this is a problem that will eventually go away, but when is the question Manchester City fans want answering. And yesterday, there was no signs of that being answered yesterday, unfortunately, because we went 2-0 up, didn't win the game. We should absolutely, fundamentally, categorically be winning that game yesterday against Brentford, but we come away with a point, you know. But if you come away with a 2-0 win against Brentford, you are going to come away from that game saying, yes, City are back. Because we've followed on from a Leicester game where I'd argue that Manchester City were a little bit fortunate in that game. I think Jamie Vardy missed a couple of big chances, sitters one of them, the side foot volley over the bar in the second half, and then we go and make it 2-0. You know, we come away with a little bit of a fortunate 3 points there. West Ham, we conceded chances in that game, a lot of them, but we made an abundance of them ourselves. We got the 4 goals as a reward for that. We went and beat Salford, yeah, I know the caveat is League 2 opposition. Everybody expects Manchester City to go and beat League 2 opposition, but nobody expects anybody to beat anybody 8-0. That's not expected at any level of football, to win the game 8-0. In the English football pyramid, no one expects to beat anyone 8-0. We did that. We beat them 8-0, emphatically so. Again, it's Salford, so you don't want to get too excited, but I mean, 8-0's 8-0. That should be celebrated, in my opinion. You follow that on with a performance against Brentford that I think a draw was probably a fair result, because like the West Ham game, we conceded chances. We made some chances, not quite to the level of quality in that final third that we showed against West Ham, but we still did create chances. But then again, we're coming away with a point. But this is a Brentford side that have got the second best home record in the league right now. You know, an absolutely fantastic home record. And if we did come away with those 3 points and a 2-0 win, even 2-1, you'd be saying, yeah, what, City are back. That is a real statement, that is, going away to Brentford and picking up all 3 points, because not many teams do that. And we were so close to doing that, and that's what's so frustrating as a City fan right now. And the narrative is just flipped right back to what it was when we were going through that horrible, horrible run. What baffles me about that run, by the way, if you look at the Nottingham Forest performance yesterday, and I said it about 2-3 weeks ago, I was banging on about it then, and no one seemed to listen. We beat Nottingham Forest 3-0. In that run where we were absolutely shite, we beat Nottingham Forest 3-0. Everyone's losing to Forest. Everyone who plays Nottingham Forest right now drops points. Everyone. Even Liverpool, who are top of the league right now, followed closely by Nottingham Forest. We smacked them up 3-0 at the Etihad. Where did that come from? Do you know what I mean? Where was that? So it's in there. It's in the system of these Manchester City players. It's in there. Get it out. Let's get it out into the open more often and more frequently. As a Manchester City fan, that's all I want to see now, is more frequent performances like that Nottingham Forest performance. I thought we blew them away eventually. And I mean, it's so frustrating to come away from that Brentford game not picking up all 3 points, knowing that we were so close to do that. But Pep Guardiola, for me, that is an area of the game that I really want to talk about right now. And that's why I've titled the video what I've titled it, because he was paranoid. He made substitutions that, for me, were criminal, really. I'm gobsmacked at one in particular, the second substitution, bringing on McAtee for Foden. There's an argument there, and the fact that he brought him on in the 87th minute, yeah, but the circumstances that followed were frustrating to watch as a Manchester City fan. But the big one is Gundogan. Gundogan coming on for Kovacic made absolutely no sense to me. 0 sense. And then Pep further compounded the lack of comprehension that I had for that substitution by stating in his post-match press conference that Gundogan is an attacking midfielder. He said those words, exactly those words. Gundogan is an attacking midfielder. So why, when it's 2-1, are you bringing on Gundogan? Sorry, it was 2-0, at that point. 2-0. 76th minute is when Gundogan came onto the pitch. The game should be seen out at that point. Kovacic, by the way, who was doing pretty good, to be honest. I felt like his positioning was much better. He was intercepting the ball so frequently. I haven't got his exact numbers, but if you go and check his interceptions, I'm convinced there'll be a reasonably good number of interceptions to his game, because I kept seeing him intercept the ball in that game. Positionally, Kovacic looked better. He was winning his tackles as well. I thought like he had a reasonably good game. It wasn't exactly a blinder, but he was the best version of what we need for a player in that position right then and that moment. He was defending okay. Like, you know what I mean? That's the best we've got right now, because we don't have Rodri. I would argue in that moment you bring on Nico O'Reilly and take off Foden or take off a Gundogan and keep Kovacic with Nico O'Reilly on the pitch together. Lose a little bit of an attacking potency. Yeah, we're 2-0 up at that point though, so we don't need that much attacking potency. I would take one of those two off and bring on Nico O'Reilly to sit alongside Kovacic. Be a little bit more humble and accept the fact that Manchester City right now are 2-0 up away at Brentford, which is an incredibly difficult place to get 3 points, as I've already stated. And then you admit that and go, we're doing a fantastic job by just being 2-0 up. Let's not blow it, lads. Let's not fuck this up and bring on Nico O'Reilly, who showed immense promise against Salford. Again, with the caveat that it's Salford, scored a goal. I thought he looked physically capable. He looked good, Nico O'Reilly, I thought, against Salford. It was Salford at the end of the day, but again, he's got a defensive mind. He enjoys tackling. Gundogan does not enjoy tackling. Now, I was slating Akanji for not being aggressive enough, and Nathan Ake for the 2 goals. I felt like Ake was just caught. Ake had a great game, by the way. 2 clearances off the line. 2 clearances off the line. He was our best defender yesterday, and I thought he was a little bit caught sleeping for their first goal, as that ball came back across with a side foot volley from Rorslev after the cross came in. Having watched it back, that's the point I want to make. The cross that came in, go and watch the first goal back, and who is the closest player to that crosser of the ball? Damsgaard was the player who was crossing the ball. The closest Manchester City player to him was Gundogan. Nowhere near good enough, mate. You've been on for 4 or 5 minutes. How have you not got the energy to get closer to him? Because you're older now. That's the answer. Because you're older now, and it's very unfortunate. It's killing me to have to say these words about these players that we adored 2 or 3 years ago. Bernardo Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, Ilkay Gundogan, Kyle Walker. These players are just having... We are forced now into saying bad things about them because they are performing badly throughout the season. In different, not Kevin De Bruyne yesterday, by the way. He's not on that list yesterday, but he has been on that list multiple times this season already. Gundogan is a big problem for us right now, and having to play him in that position. But the fact that Pep said he's an attacking midfielder, to bring on off a defensive midfielder, well, he's not, is he? Look at his shirt number. What shirt number did Kovacic pick? 8. That's his position. He ain't a 6. You can say the same about Jack Grealish. What shirt number did he pick? 10. He ain't a winger. He wants to be in the middle. Kovacic wants to be a little bit more box to box rather than being a sitter. But he's doing the job, and he's doing a reasonably good job of it. But it was so baffling to me and comes completely from paranoia that Pep Guardiola just does not want to lose more players to injury. He was terrified of losing Kovacic because he knows the importance of Kovacic. So he thinks 2-0 up, we've won the game, bring off a player that we are absolutely going to need for the second half of the season. We can't afford to lose Kovacic right now. We just can't. It can't happen. Especially seeing as we don't have a midfielder lined up in the January transfer market. I think we will get one, but until then, Kovacic's importance is of the utmost importance. We can't lose him. So Pep knew that, he brings him off. I understand the logic, but I do feel like we need to push the boat out a little bit more and not be so paranoid. Be a little bit braver with your decision making as a manager. Now, this isn't me saying Pep Guardiola needs to have a think and all the personal circumstances that are being surfaced right now in the media trying to bring down the man that is Pep Guardiola, not the manager. I don't want to talk about his personal life, to be honest. I don't think as City fans, it's not healthy to bring down the human being that is Pep Guardiola. I don't want to talk about it. Everyone has circumstances to go with, whether it is or whether it isn't affecting your ability to manage a football club. For me, I'm not interested. If he says he's okay to do it, then only he knows that. Only Pep Guardiola knows that. There is no human being on this planet that can say it is or isn't affecting Pep Guardiola. No way. Absolutely no chance. But I do think that there's a footballing problem at Manchester City. Nothing to do with personal, and it's paranoia from losing players to injury. Okay? Bringing on Gundogan was crazy to me. Now, the second substitution, again, not as baffling as the Gundogan substitution, but still, you're bringing off Phil Foden when I would have taken off Kevin De Bruyne in reality, because Phil Foden's on a hat-trick. You've got the adrenaline running through your veins. You've scored a brace. You could bag yourself a hat-trick. Had that chance fallen to Phil Foden on the edge of the area when the game is 2-1, Manchester City could have bagged a third goal, game won. But mcfc is the player who's raw, he's rusty, he's been on for, a minute, 2 minutes before he gets that chance, and then whips it with his left foot. It wasn't even close. It was about 5 yards wide. If that was Phil Foden, hindsight, we're guessing. We do not know if Phil Foden would have buried that. But I would have rather it have been, if you would ask me which player would have you preferred in that exact moment to be on the ball with space on the edge of the penalty area to have a shot where it favoured a left footer, who would you have picked, James McAtee or Phil Foden? Considering Phil Foden had just scored 2 goals, but you brought him off. You didn't give him that opportunity because you brought him off with 2 goals to his name. Could have bagged the hat-trick, could have won the game. Again, another circumstance where a substitution has heavily impacted the game. Not quite to the extent of Gundogan for me, but still. We need to improve, though, massively. And January transfer is where that work starts. The level of improvement begins now in January when we sign Omar Mamouche, Vitor Reich and Kushinov. When these players come into the squad, that will just be a small stepping stone to the rebuild, to the reset that we very much need. But in the meantime, Pep Guardiola needs to be braver. He needs to be smarter with his substitutions, because the Gundogan one for me was a big mistake for me. What do you think, though? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up Silva.